and welcome back to the pod. This is Dare to Be Aware, and I am your host, Alvi. Thank you for tuning in again. Today we are just going to hit on a couple of things that have been on my mind, and a lot of things, a couple of things that we can all learn from. I wanted to kind of talk about living untethered because I kind of went through it this week a little bit, I should say last night. And, it's just a bunch of things that it's like, these things, but until someone kind of lays them out for you, you can't really take advantage of them. And it's not that you can't, you're just so confused with other shit. I should say distracted, but distraction kind of leads to confusion because you're not focusing your time on the shit that you should be focusing on. So everything just becomes a fucking blur. So yeah. But firstly, I just want to talk about gratitude being such an important thing because I'm thinking about the things that I want to do and where I want to go. And it's like, how the fuck am I, you, anyone? How are you supposed to get to the place where you want to get to without loving and taking advantage of the things that are already in your life and in front of you? Because those are the tools that you're going to use to get there. So showing gratitude for the things that you do have and the ability that you do have and all the things you're best blessed with in the moment, like intangibles and tangibles. I think that's it's one of those things that unless you really think about it or somebody really stresses it to you, I don't think that you really know the importance of it. And it really goes hand in hand with you don't really know what you have until it's gone. And the reason that I feel that way and that kind of thought has been ruminating in my mind for a little bit is because, the 2 year of the death of my brother, my best friend, was on the 16th. And I still can't start to identify the things that have affected me. There's things we should attribute to grief. And obviously, you sit and think about it, but you're almost kind of afraid of it because it's like any other unknown. You're wary of what the truth could be. You're wary of, I don't want to confuse y'all, but you're wary of what that grief, when you really focus in on it and unravel it, what it really is exposing and what is really unveiled. When you actually take the time to compartmentalize the effects of it, and when you look at what's not in your life anymore, i.e. the person that you've lost, and then you think about how your life has changed by not having that person there anymore. And if you lose a person who is as important as Josh was to me and the role that he played in my life, he was such a huge part of my life and of my happiness, and I don't have that part anymore. And it's crazy to think about how I'll never have that kind of happiness anymore because I don't have Josh anymore. There's nothing that can prepare you for that. Josh had his afflictions, of course, and we all do. And when I think about it retrospectively and I sit on the thought of it and I beat myself up because it's so selfish. It's so selfish to get mad at someone or judge someone or change perspective on someone who is just dealing with their own afflictions and their own vices. We all have vices. We all have afflictions. We all have things that we're not happy and proud about in our lives, and the things that we do on a consistent basis, our tendencies, we're all trying to change. So I distance myself when I feel someone is not showing the standard that I expect them to show. And when I think about this, it makes me want to rip the hair that I don't have out of my head because How selfish is that? How selfish is it for you to feel some type of way about the way someone else is dealing with the problems that they have in their lives, as if I've gone through those problems, when even if I have, they're not my problems. They're not to the degree, or they don't affect me the same way that they affect the other person. And so that brews into some humongous distance. And it could be distance literally. You distance yourself from this person. Or it could be you distance yourself from this person in another way. Maybe you're an asshole to them all the time. Maybe you just don't text them anymore. Maybe you just don't pick up the fucking phone call like I did. I didn't pick up the fucking phone call a bunch of times because I didn't want to deal with someone who didn't know how to deal with their own problems. I got problems I don't know how to fucking deal with. So this is just an ode to, it's just a branch to be aware. Reach out to that awareness about how you're handling someone else who is going through a hardship. And yes, you may want the best for this person. You may give them a lot of advice. You may preach to them about how they need to change and how whatever they're doing is not serving them. But at the end of the day, you are not that person. That person deals with the things that are in their lives in the way they know how to deal with it. And first of all, you can't change someone's problems unless you know the entire scope of the problem. If you know in depth, viscerally, what they're going through, meaning somewhere in here, you know exactly how they're feeling. And so I just want to dare you to be aware, dare me to be aware of how we project our insecurities or our lack of understanding in our own lives to someone else's life. Because at the end of the day, everything that we experience is just a projection of ourselves. We are allowed to, not only are we allowed, but the way that we handle situations is solely based on the way that we define them. And when we define someone else's problems and we identify them as a problem that we know something about or we have gone through in the past, even if we are fucking professionals, we study this thing as fucking day and night, whatever problems you feel like this other person is going through, or maybe again, you feel like you've also gone through, or you're just trying to like understand why someone is the way that they are. Even if you have a fucking 2 PhD on the situation or the experience or the science or the theory or whatever the fuck it is, you'll never be in that person's shoes. So you could never really know exactly how that thing affects them, no matter what. No matter what. So why do we judge people? Why do we feel so strongly about other people's lives? We don't live their lives. We don't live their lives. And it just takes away from the life experience. Because when that person isn't there anymore, then you want to think about how, damn, why was I so insensitive? Why couldn't I understand? Why didn't I just know? I could have just been there more. Like, bro, that is a horrible fucking shitty fucking feeling, bro. It is the worst feeling ever. And it's really fucking painful. And the thing is that, you know what the fucking worst part about it is when you do this? When you judge someone, when you try to emulate God, basically, by judging someone else, is that it doesn't actually hurt. Like, it would be so much better if the pain was real. If it was a real sharp pain in your fucking gut, or your fucking neck was just, it hurt every time you thought about this. Every time you had a feeling of regret, imagine that it actually was painful. When that pain goes away, then it would be okay. Or I should say it would be better. But when you feel regret, you don't really feel it. It's actually sprinkled in your life, in all the other aspects of your life. When you stub your toe, that pain is a lot more. Or you get mad at a situation that was trivial. Someone ate the last piece of bacon and you're punching a wall or something. Or it's just a void. It's not an actual pain. It's not an actual thing. It's it's air, but it's a feeling. and it doesn't actually hurt. It's not physically painful. And so I think that's the worst part about grief, regret, realizing that you could have served a better purpose in someone else's life if you weren't so fucking judgmental, if you didn't fall into the societal norms and the societal pressures of keeping a standard or whatever it is that you feel you need to keep up with the Joneses. All this shit about if people aren't serving a purpose in your life, or if someone's negative energy is affecting your life in this way, you gotta deal with people's negative energy sometimes, bro. That's still your brother. That's still your best friend. Maybe they're going through some shit that you should ask another question about. What the fuck do we ever know? And it's so fucking stupid. Just the judgment aspect of everything is just so stupid, because when you judge, really you're judging yourself. You're really just judging yourself because you see everything through your own lens. And that lens is a product of your upbringing, your education or lack thereof, your personality, which was shaped by the things you've gone through, your ability to cope with negative or good, your relationship with other people, your parents, your friends, your loved ones, past baggage you got, the trauma you've been through. All these things shape the lens. They all shape the lens that you see through. And when something is in the lens and you see something, it's not really what it is. You know, they say that you can't be your own judge, jury, executioner, because there's no way that you can see the macro in your own life. You know that thing where I think this is a recent video that's been trending, but it's life is always mad painful when you magnify it. It's painful, it sucks when you magnify it. But then when you zoom out, it's hilarious. Same situation when you macro it, when you zoom out. Is hilarious because you realize how fucking stupid you were to spend all that time opining or deciphering a situation that was never that serious. And I gotta say, we all go through dumb shit. We all do dumb shit. You know, it's part of learning life and going through it. But losing people over dumb shit is not worth it. It's just not worth it, bro. Because it's so much better to have people in your life than not. And yeah, you gotta do shit on your own, and you gotta learn how to be on your own and by yourself and love yourself and all that shit. All that shit is true. But shit gets lonely, and when it does get lonely, bro, you gotta have people on your side, man. You gotta have a support group. You gotta have all those things. And nowadays, the good thing about it is that you can find it on different platforms, you know? You can have an online support system. I don't think that will fill the void for real people in your life, but this was supposed to be about gratitude, and I kind of went a little bit off because I'm in my feelings a lot of it, and to be honest with you, I have been avoiding addressing the grief, and I think that's a part of grief. I know there's some steps to grief. I obviously I haven't educated myself on those things, and I guess in real time I'm unraveling those things in my life, especially as the 2-year death of my bro, and it's just really eye-opening. It is eye-opening. And at this very moment, I'm realizing how much it has been affecting me and how I have really been isolating myself. And like, it's cool. I don't think it's something that's debilitating. It affects me, bro. And I don't mean that I just sit and just ponder about shit or about this shit and about my role in Josh's life. But I think that in other ways it seeps through. Like I was mentioning before, like, you know, those little things, it's sprinkled around in life. And so I think it's good to have moments where you reflect on it. And I don't write that much about it, but I think that I'm going to write more about it now that I'm kind of in this space where it's been 2 years and like I really realize how much I miss that motherfucker. I have a thing about people projecting not project, I shouldn't use that word because I used it earlier in the pod to prove another point. But, trauma dumping, that's what it is. That's the word or term I was looking for. I hate trauma dumping. I try to really not trauma dump. And so I don't want to trauma dump. But I want to talk about the real shit. Life is ass. And I don't know if I might have had a pod where I talked about it. It was probably an audio pod before I was doing the videos. I might have talked about it. But that was early. So the 2 year mark I think is important. It's part of the journey, and it's a check mark, a checkpoint, I should say, in the journey. And so I think that's why I'm going off about it. But anyways, I think I was talking about gratitude, and I think that it's different when you don't have that thing that you weren't grateful for, or you didn't have the time to, you didn't have the presence of mind to be grateful about. And it's hard. Living Untethered talks about living in the present moment, living life fully present and experiencing it as it unfolds. When you're doing that, it also talks about releasing stored energy. Through awareness, you're able to do that. So basically, this is a personification of that. And when you're living life presently and experiencing as it unfolds, but you're also trying to release stored energy from the past, it's kind of a dichotomy, because when you're living in the present, you're not focused on the past, are you? You try not to be, right? So it's really hard to do that simultaneously. And so I think that can be attributed to the present is a distraction to the past, but the past is also a distraction to the present. And so how are we able to discern that, right? He talks about understanding the mind. The mind just creates a bunch of thoughts and voices, and they're all so repetitive. And they're brewed from an experience that you had, but that experience continues to repeat itself in your mind if you don't deal with it. And I think that is a really important part of living in your present, is that when you go through things and they start unfolding, you got to deal with them today, or they're going to ruminate. They're going to affect you later. And I'm not saying that you can deal with all the problems that happen to you as they unfold, because a lot of problems have lingering effects, and that's just part of life. But I think as we continue to live, and we live in a conscious state, a more conscious state, I think it's always important to know or denote or dispel all of the things that you go through that you feel like affect you going forward. Because your circumstances do not define you. Your state of mind is what defines you. So the way that you're perceiving that circumstance in your life is what defines you, not the circumstance itself. You could be in a bad circumstance, and if you define it as such in that moment, because we're living in the moments. But if your definition of a moment that's on the outside detrimental to your life as a whole, you're gonna go through that moment feeling shitty, feeling like there's a weight. But if you attribute the moment and the circumstances to the game, you charge it to the game, like you control what you can control. And in that moment, your state of mind, your consciousness will not be so affected by it. And so I think that living untethered is trying to portray or trying to convey the message that there's a separation of your reality and of your thoughts, but you still live in reality. You don't live in your thoughts. And the thing is that sometimes you can't control your thoughts. Like a lot of times we can't control our thoughts because we don't practice controlling our thoughts. And so when you don't practice controlling your thoughts, and you're not retrospective, maybe you're not writing, maybe you're not whatever, meditating on it, visualizing it within your life and outside of your life, then it becomes hard to compartmentalize your thoughts and your reality. So you just got to work on it, and you got to be aware of it. Because this is all according to the book, right? It's like you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, and you're not your experiences. You're not any of those things. It says that you're just an observer of these things. Hey, this is some shit. And I was reading, it's kind of a preachy tone. I think that I don't love that about the way that Michael A. Singer writes, is that it's just a little bit too preachy for me, but it's fucking fact. But then again, that's another thing, is me judging it. But That nigga got our best interest in mind. He's writing this shit because he probably knows shit that we don't know. But me being like, yo, stop preaching to me, bro. Like, da da da. But look at me here, going through his shit and fucking taking all the things that serve me. So basically, he talks about spiritual growth being how growth actually arises when you allow life's challenges to teach you and transform you. And I think that's what I'm letting life do to me right now. And I think that I've been on this, I keep mentioning the spiritual journey that I've been on, and it's really hard to be conscious of the things and the tendencies that you have, the negative things that you go through, or the negative like reactions that you have to things that sometimes you can't control, or things that challenge your ego, and keeping that humility. And I feel like humility is so fucking important. Not only is humility so important, bro, but I think that it's so attractive. When a woman is just humble, I got an issue with that nowadays. Like, everyone's like talking about, just everybody's so cocky and arrogant about, and it's always about like their looks. I've seen a lot of posts about women that just praise themselves, and I feel like it's just it's giving no growth. It's giving you're old as fuck now. However old you are, if you're older than 25, 27, and you're old, nigga, like you should be on a growth path. You should be on a growth path. And I feel like just the obsession of everybody of themselves is too much. It's like for the blogs. It's just weird, bro. Women who compliment their own pussies. Have you ever tasted your own pussy? I mean, I guess you kind of can, but like, nah, like, what? I don't get it, bro. Them niggas could have been lying to you. You feel me? Like, what? It's just weird to me. Anyways, so the singer talks about spiritual growth being able to keep that humility. This is like cultivating humility and openness is really like central to Michael A. Singer's points and what he's trying to convey in his teachings. And so it's hard. Is what I'm trying to say. It's really difficult. Okay, it's really difficult to transform into lesser reactions, especially if in the past you've been prone to react maybe irrationally to certain things. So just all things that I dare you to be aware of, okay? I'm not in any way saying that this is the blueprint. Why didn't you just follow the plan that he wrote out for us? Because it's really harder to do than anything. But I think that I like the message. And in a macro, everything in the macro, when you look at it as a whole, is more helpful, and I feel like it's just more relatable. I watched the movie The Substance, and if you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it. I don't want to spoil it, because it's such a crazy movie, and it has a great analogy and a great application to the world that we live in, and the facade, the imagery that is so fiercely, and that has become the kind of imagery and the kind of facade and the kind of exterior expectations that society has put on all of us. And as we progress as a society, that image continues to weirdly perfect itself. So meaning that people are chasing perfection more and more and more, and it's all something that is for us to see. And life is 1/5 of what we see. How many senses we got, my boy? We got 5 fucking senses. And all we fucking focusing on is looking good. That's a bore. So go watch The Substance. I'm not gonna link an illegal site to watch the movie, but if you don't want to go see it in theaters, but you can find it if you look for it. Crystal clear too. OD. Anyways, there's a trending video by Shia LaBeouf going around, like, he's articulating the fact that suffering is life. Life is suffering. Like like that 50 Cent lyric on Many Men. Life wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain. So I just wanted to, this is some things that I wrote down that I wanted to mention. I guess I'm just gonna go through the last things that I wanted to mention. Gratitude. Life is suffering. And I think that gratitude really does everything. Like it's just cures perspective or lack thereof. And so I think that that's what I would love to harp on. And I think that everything all just comes back to being grateful for what you have. I talked about grief a little bit, but that's just something that if you take anything from this today is be a little bit more grateful. Or I don't want to tell you what to do because you're a grown ass man or woman or whatever you identify as, and tell you what to do, but I would like to put that in front of you so that maybe you're more aware of your gratitude or lack thereof. I think that's a great term, lack thereof, because everything has two sides, right? Like everything is a contradiction of itself. That was the last thought that I wanted to say, and I totally forgot it. Well, I think that's it for us today. I could probably go on another hour rant because that's just how I'm feeling today. I hope you took something from this. Living Untethered is in the previous video in the comments section. I try to plug in a readable version of these books. I know a lot of people maybe would rather read a book, but I know that also a lot of people be on their phone, so maybe you could just read it on your phone or get a Kindle. I got a Kindle, and all those links that I posted, and if you got access to this, to the book, to the text is the word I'm looking for, in any way, you can always convert it to the Kindle in PDF form. So if you don't know how to do it, then just comment and I'll show you, or I don't know, DM us. Or I don't know. I'm trying to create some kind of interaction between my audience and myself. And so, but anyways, dare to be aware. I talked about a lot of shit today, so I hope that you got something from it. And thank you so much, folks. Like, thanks for everything. And don't forget to thank God for waking you up another day and giving you the ability to do what you do every day. And pray for your loved ones, man. Cherish them, because when they're gone, it's trash. Dare to be aware. Peace.